Hello my Scrappy friends, it is Jess here from the Scrappy Sisters and thank you for joining me for a Kitaholic Kits design team layout. So I started this layout by diagonally tearing the peace sign piece of paper in half, and I was hoping to only have to use half of the paper, like so to now just keep this full triangle to use because I love the florals on the back and I wanted to save the florals for a different layout. But then I realized when I did this, because this is the look I'm going for, that of course the peace signs go in a certain direction. And so therefore I needed to do this one as well so that I could get two triangles with the peace signs going in the correct direction. Because this is the look I want for my specific layout. So I ended up having to tear the full 12 by 12 into 4 triangles, which actually makes sense now I think about it, to be able to have 2 of them in the correct direction. It's all good. I still plan on using that floral paper later down the track. Then I pulled out the print shop stencil that we got in this month's Mixed Media kit, and the super cute this one is, I want to say Tattered Jeans, I think, from my stash. This distress ink, we did get a distress ink in the kit. We got a red one. And again, just wait, I'll be using the lumberjack one in another layout further down the road. So this is the general look of what I'm going for, but I realized very quickly that I need to kind of fade out with my stencil a little bit more because it looks very distinctly a rectangle right in the middle of the page. That's not quite the look I'm going for. I did want to keep buffing, and I definitely wanted the ink to kind of settle off a little bit. So you'll notice that I'm rubbing with my brush sort of in the center of the page and really darkening up those center circles before rubbing my way outwards so that the ones further out of the page, further radiating out from the center, are a bit lighter in color. This time here, I didn't even put any fresh ink on my brush. I did this time, but the time before I didn't, just so I'm using those last little remnants of ink that are left on my brush to really give that light effect. If you are in Australia and you are checking out this process video and wondering about those brushes, they are the Kmart makeup brushes. They're $12. They have 3 sizes. They're pretty cool. Then everything you saw there was the general gist of what I'm doing, but I decided last minute to grab out the grit paste from last week or last month and add some flower-shaped grit paste on top of my circles. The flower is also one of the stencils in this month's kit, and I just gave you a really brief flash of that a second ago. It's really difficult to see, but you can see it in my close-up photos at the end of this video. Even though I tore my pages, because I used a ruler to kind of keep them fairly straight, they don't have enough of the messy, distressed look that I would like. So I'm adding to that by just roughing those up with my scissors, cutting off the branding strip. I just kept this in because you can see a bit more of that grit paste when the page was on that angle there to sort of see that that had been added on. I really seriously thought about flipping this paper over and using the floral paper because I just love the flowers, and look, they totally would have worked, but I just felt for the rest of the layout and for the subject, I really needed to stick with my original idea using this blue side, but gosh, it was hard because those florals are so beautiful. So this layout is essentially my son is receiving 2 awards at Assembly that week. He got his Premier's Reading Challenge Award. Again, you'd need to be an Australian to understand what I'm talking about there, or a Victorian to understand what I'm talking about there. Basically, the Premier sponsors a reading challenge every year where there's a set number of books that your child has to read. You then enter them into a website, and when they have read X amount of books, they receive a certificate. So he got that, and he is very excited. And then he also got a sports award as well, which was super, super cool. It did so happen to be pajama day, so he's literally wearing his pajamas for these photos, but, you know, it's all part of the story. You can see that I also pulled out my sewing machine a moment ago and stitched around the two large triangles. I do use my sewing machine for material, no way near as often as I use it for paper, but whenever I'm going to material, I just switch out the needle. Using your sewing machine on paper just blunts up your needle a lot more quickly than using it on material. So, and you'll know if you are a sewer that if you then try and sew on material, you'll have your threads snap and your tension won't be quite right because that needle is too blunt. So I just switch it out if I'm sewing on material, but for everything on paper, I just use the same needle again and again and again. So basically, my machine is set up permanently for paper, so I can just pull it out, sew, and put it away. And if I am doing material, I will then swap my needle out. And every now and then I just give it a bit of a dust and a bit of a blow just to make sure there's no sort of fragments of paper sticking around. But I've found no trouble whatsoever, and it's works super well. So I'm very happy with that. So now I'm going to embellish up this layout. I don't want too much. I feel like there's quite a bit happening in the layout already with the mixed media and the 3 photos. So I'm just keeping it fairly simple, obviously with everything sort of centered around those 3 photographs. They were originally 3x4 size, the photographs, but I cut them down quite a lot smaller. They're about 2 inches wide now. And the reason I did that was one, because Jack was the focus and I wanted to hone in on Jack and fit the 3 photos into the center of the page. But 2, there were other children from the school who'd also received awards lining up, and I just didn't want those in my photograph. They weren't people of any relevance to me, so I wanted to cut them out. Then, as you can see, I've popped on a title. This title we did get in a kit, but I couldn't even tell you which months. It had a whole bunch of different sentiments on it, and obviously that one says congrats, so I'm using that one. And then, yeah, just piling up a few things, still using my use up old thickers trick where I grab any thickers that I've got no vowels left for or words that are too difficult to make, and I'm popping those on the backs. These particular thickers aren't amazing for this because they're not super dimensional, but it does give them just a slight pop above or raise up above the rest of the layout, and that's enough. I don't want too much bulk anyway because it makes your albums so overflowing, but I do just want that little bit of dimension to add a bit of shadow and a bit of dimension, for want of a better word, to the layout, so you can see that some things are slightly raised against the others, and it's easier to layer as well to put things under. I am sorry that my big buff head is in the way there. I had to get that perfect. And then I am just about done. So once I put all these down, you know me, I cannot have a layout without splatters, so I will of course pop on some splatters as well. Have I put any string in the tag in the middle? I cannot even tell, but I do need to put some string in the tag in the center. I love these Jen Hatfield Starburst enamel dots because there's hearts, stars, and then that kind of starburst shape. And I'm really impressed that there's 2 sheets worth. I think that is awesome. We all love those, and now I'm not even afraid to use them because I've got a whole second sheet. So love that. Just checking if there's any other last minute bits and bobs I want to pop onto this page. There are quite a few sentiments, so I don't want to go too over the top and make it too word heavy, but sometimes it's nice to pull a bit of the similar color just to sort of balance out the layout a little bit. Really deciding where to put this little half circle that I chopped in half. I just feel like it needs something. That circle was way too far under, so that's not going to work. It's going to have to come out a little bit. Like you can't even tell that it's there. I'm all for layering, but you can't even tell that it's there. I'm having a lot of trouble figuring out where to put this one. I'm trying all the places. This is when I almost get to the stage where I just get rid of it because it is too difficult. But I persevered. I pulled one more sentiment out, and I am going to move that little half circle so that you can, like, I've now completely covered it completely. There's no point in it even being there, so I am going to move that in a touch Here is my bow. I said I needed a little ribbon up on that top tag. And I tied that one in a bow, just making sure the ends aren't too long. Sometimes with the grit paste, I do find I need to add a little bit of extra adhesive behind any of the things because the grit paste might make it a little bit tricky to stick down to. But that's actually probably a good thing because it makes sure that I have adhered everything well anyway. So probably worth it in the end. I told you I was going to pull out that circle, that half circle, because it was just pointless being there. And I've decided to put him over on the side. Evens out, makes the two sides balance a little bit more. And now I am just about done. So I'll pop on my splatters, and then of course I have some close-ups at the end of the video where you can see that grit paste a little bit better and just see those clusters a little bit better and get a better idea of how I have balanced out each side of the photos. I was really happy with the way this one came together, playing with that texture paste and putting the ink through the stencil. It just makes such a big difference to the back of the featuring of the layout, and also just pulling that blue 4x6 matte to put my photos on really helped those photos pop off the page. Thank you so much for watching, and I cannot wait to see you in my next video. Bye everyone.